You know, we've already been through this with Joy Junction. Joy Junction basically had such a just ugh.
Plethora of problems.
Yes, specifically involving a dude with a puppet.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out that dude with the puppet was a creep of one of the highest levels. And it's just like,
I wish that the Darkest Kids TV show ever made just ends up being like Alone in the... Or no, Are You
Afraid of the Dark? Yeah.
Yeah. I almost said Alone in the Dark. That's a video game series.
Yeah.
That would be really dark for a kid show.
Yes, it would be. Alone in the Dark. Like, half the cast dies in, like, the first season. It's just like, Jesus.
Traumatize all them children.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. Man. So, the Darkest Kids TV show ever made by Nick Crowley. We're going to be watching this, and we're going to be seeing what kind of messed up stuff that the supposed Darkest Kids TV show ever made was all about. So, I guess, no time like the present. Let's get into it.
It's the winter of 1985. A family living in a remote region of the Philippines receives a package at their door, which contained a single VHS tape and a note stating that the contents were for the children of the house. And so, the kids were gathered up one by one and sat in front of the television, where the tape began to play, introducing them to a brand new show called...
Life with Grandpa.
Life with Grandpa.
This was the experience.
Why is it always puppets?
I don't know.
Why is it always puppets? I don't get it.
Because of the uncanny creepiness, I suppose.
This was the experience for hundreds of kids across the world, made to watch a seemingly harmless puppet show about a grandpa and his family, with most of the young viewers loving it, gladly watching this episode and the many others that would be sent later on, over and over again, blissfully unaware that what they were being shown would someday come to be known as one of the most disturbing rabbit holes in the history of children's media. This is the story of Life with Grandpa, the darkest kids show ever made.
Nothing can harm you when Jesus is near.
Dad, I don't want you to leave.
Can I persuade you to subscribe?
Before we dive any further down this rabbit hole, I want to first thank today's video sponsor, Saley. Throughout my life, I've taken countless trips to Canada as I live right by the border, and I'm so used to going there that at this point it doesn't even feel like I'm traveling.
Was that Angus?
Dad,
Let's see.
I don't want you to leave.
Can I persuade?
Yes, it was. Yeah, he's even got the orb.
That's dope.
Angus Scrim, dude. Rest in peace.
You to subscribe?
Huh?
So that's dope.
Yeah.
That's like the coolest, like, click the subscribe button thing I think I've ever seen.
Before we dive any further down this rabbit hole, I want to first thank today's video sponsor.
Whoever made him, I
Saley.
want to say,
Throughout my life,
we
I've
need to ask Robert England if he would do like a click the subscribe button clip for us or something.
Be sure to subscribe.
We can put it at the end of the video. We can have it be like, make sure to hit the subscribe button, bitch.
Yeah. Like, if you don't, I'll haunt you in your dreams.
Taking countless trips to Canada as I live right by the border, and I'm so used to going there that at this point it doesn't even feel like I'm traveling to another country until I see the roaming charges on my phone bill. This has literally cost me hundreds of dollars over the years, but luckily I don't have to waste another cent thanks to Saley. Saley is a new eSIM service app created by Nord Security, and it's incredibly easy to use. First, download the Saley app, then pick a plan that works for you, which you can use code Crowley to get 15% off at checkout, and then simply follow the instructions in the app to install the eSIM. This is way more convenient than having to get a new physical SIM card whenever you go to another country. And best of all, it instantly activates as soon as you arrive at your destination, so you don't have to waste a second of your trip. This is also way safer than having to use public Wi-Fi, which is a hassle to track down anyway. Saley is also extremely accessible, with it being available on both iOS and Android, with plans available in over 160 countries in 8 different regions. So if this sounds like something you guys might be interested in, you can get an exclusive 15% off discount on your Saley eSIM data plan. All you have to do is download the app and use code Crowley at checkout, or you can also scan the code on screen right now and get started today.
Fellowship dedicated to sharing.
She loved to play on the steep hillside.
Life with Grandpa, won't you come along?
This is Life with Grandpa, a straight-to-VHS show made for children created sometime in the mid-80s. The program followed a family of humanoid puppets on their journey to teach the audience lessons loosely based on Christianity through the use of stories, skits, and songs, acting as a guide for children to live their best possible lives for Jesus.
We're continuing with some more lessons about prayer. Are you all ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lord. Such sweethearts.
The show was set up in an episodic fashion, never following any main overarching storyline, and instead, each installment would be composed of a series of shorter segments, recounting past experiences from this family, with an occasional musical number thrown in here and there.
We don't have a sad God. We have a happy God who wants us to be happy too.
Unsurprisingly,
The
the
vibe
main
of
character of the
this
crew
like feels a lot like the Threshold kids from Control, which are made to be purposely very creepy.
Don't get that reference because I haven't played that game, but
You need to play it.
I know.
Who was Grandpa, who acted as the show's host, often being the one to teach the episode's central messages not only to his on-screen family, but to all the kids watching at home.
But it's my kite.
But wouldn't you like to pray that some poor little boy who doesn't have so many toys and blessings as you do will find your kite?
Yes, Grandpa.
As he was made to be a wise, almost religious-like figure, whose words were never questioned. Often seen by his side was his wife, Mother Maria, though for as often as she's shown, she rarely has much to say.
Yes, thank the Lord for such a good, sweet boy.
Typically only chiming in when she's reiterating Grandpa's messages to the children. And of the children, there was Davida, Techi, and Davidito, with the latter
Davidito.
Those are some interesting names.
I was gonna say, if this is like from the Philippines but in English, that's, I don't know. Well, the English is very predominantly spoken in the Philippines.
being one of the
Techi
show's
sounds
central
Japanese.
figures, landing right next to or potentially even ahead of Grandpa in terms of screen time, as Davidito often got his own segments and told his own stories directly to the audience.
Hello, children. Would you like to hear some exciting prayer adventures? This first story happened when I was very small.
And though it's never outright stated, it's clear that Davidito was put on a pedestal, with the child often getting special treatment and being showered in gifts, as the family clearly seemed to favor him.
Thank you, Uncle Al.
It's called a kite.
We want to give you a little surprise because you were such a good witness.
This brand new tape recorder is for you.
Thank you, Jesus.
With there never being an explanation as to why. This is the core group of Life with Grandpa, with the only other reoccurring characters being Aunt Sarah and Uncle Elf, a couple that was often shown around the house helping look after the kids. And despite this looking like something pulled straight from the depths of the Uncanny Valley, the content within the show didn't really seem all that troublesome. In fact, it appeared fairly normal, and not too unlike the many other low-budget religious shows of the time, highlighting themes like obedience.
Nothing short of right is right.
Yes, so the right thing is...
To obey.
Sharing.
Good morning, Davida. I have a surprise for you. Oh, can I see it? I would like to share my cars with you. Which ones do you like?
And loving everyone.
That's really sweet of you, David. Thank you for that nice, generous present.
What?
I was gonna say, is that Grandpa in the picture? Grandpa like self illustrate himself and hang a picture of it. I think it's probably God and like the Virgin Mary. I don't know. Like the Immaculate Conception.
That
I don't
nice
know.
kiss. A kiss makes a real beautiful gift or present.
Though mixed within these fairly standard teachings, you'll find other moments that are far more unusual.
Don't run down that gravel hill.
Wow!
Davida! Oh, Davida.
She's bleeding, and her cut is all covered with dirt.
And I don't even have a tissue to wipe it with. I'll just have to lick it clean and spit out the dirt.
Oh, fuck.
That's one of the most unsanitary things you can do. The human mouth is filled with so much bacteria that that's dangerous. Don't do that.
The show featured a lot of strange underlying themes that seemed to have nothing to do with religion, or at least not the conventional beliefs of Christianity, with one of the more obvious being its unprompted disdain for doctors.
We'll have to really pray that there won't be a scar.
Soon afterwards, there was no sign at all of the deep gash on Davida's forehead. Surely a doctor would have stitched it, but our God is still a God of miracles. Praise the Lord.
As well as its constant endorsement of spanking.
Jesus spanks us.
I'm gonna say, here's my explanation to people who are just like anti, like anti-doctor. It's just like, okay, you have this thing that's wrong with you. God put a person in your path who can help you with it and give you the medicine you need to get over it. But yet, you're going to not take the gift that God is giving you of literally being cured of your ailment simply because you don't think man is worthy of curing you. It goes back to one of my favorite ones as well. It's just like this dude was like in the middle of this huge storm surge, and the water was like up to he was on the roof of his house, and the water was like creeping up the side of his roof, and a dude like came up in a boat, and he was just like, he came in a rowboat. He was like, "Hey man, get on in. I'll get you out of here." And the guy on the roof was like, "No, the Lord will save me. Please, the Lord will save me. I don't need your help." And then, about a couple hours go by, the water's like up to his feet. A police patrol boat comes by, and he's like, "Hey, come on, get in. We'll get you out of here." And the guy's like, "No, the Lord will save me. The Lord will save me." And then the guy is up to his neck in water a couple hours later, and then a helicopter comes over, and a guy in a basket comes down. He's like, "Come on, grab my hand." Huh?
Grab the rope.
Here, grab my hand. I'll take you to safety. And the man goes, "No, the Lord will save me. The Lord will save me." And then the guy in the helicopter goes back up, and they leave. The guy is like, water goes up over his head, and he drowns. He gets up to the pearly gates, and he gets in front of God, and he asks God, "Why, God? Why did you not save me when I was like,
idiot! I sent you 2 boats and a helicopter."
Yeah, it's like I don't want to hear it. I sent you a rowboat, I sent you a patrol boat, and I sent you a helicopter. You're the idiot that didn't want to get in. Honestly, it's just, oh boy. Anyway,
Us because he loves us and wants us to obey and be good.
We're really sorry. So if the Lord should spank you a little bit or correct you, it's for your own good. It's because he loves you and wants you to be good and obey.
And while these are certainly strange, by far the most glaring indication that Life with Grandpa wasn't just your typical kids show came from the program's stance on women, with the first major example coming from a song made for the young girls watching on.
So do the dishes and clean the floor, and God can show us something more. I'm ready for any job at all, whether it's great or whether it's small. I'm ready to go, ready to stay, ready my place to fill. Ready for service, lowly or great, ready to do God's will.
The message behind
This is the misogynistic Christian viewpoint.
Seems that way.
Behind the song is clear. If you're a woman, then it's your job to cook, clean, and have babies. And that's about it, as this is God's will and your sole purpose for existing. And while this ideology was certainly not as controversial at the time, the show took it even further, as it hammered home this idea to all the children watching on by repeating one line at the end over and over again.
Trust and obey, for there's no other way. Trust and obey, for there's no other way. Trust and obey, for there's no other way.
Making it clear that this was a lesson that the showrunners didn't want these kids to question. But as comically offensive as this song is, it was far from the worst that the show had to offer.
It's time for our electric song.
He's a friendly scientist, a real good friend of ours.
In an another episode, we're shown a musical number about Grandpa, who's portrayed as a scientist that's always busy working, though the song is really less about him and more about his love interest.
Why does the robot have boobs?
A family show.
Watch her flick and spin. Ooh, yeah.
A robot with long hair and nude female breasts. It's one of the most surreal things that I've ever seen on a kid's show, as this thing was clearly meant to be a portrayal of Grandpa's wife and women in general, likening them to robots. Though unlike the previous demeaning song, this number is blatantly perverted, as it not only shows the robot having breasts, but it also shows Grandpa fondling them as well. And these perversions weren't even exclusive to its imagery.
What's in his key? And that's when she gets excited.
What the fuck?
That's not innuendo. That's literally just like a slapping in the face, just being like, sex!
It's shocking for so many reasons, but mainly due to the fact that this was on a show that was literally made for toddlers and young children, who are now being shown this clearly explicit content. And most disturbing of all is the realization that this sexualized material was actually nothing new to the world of Life with Grandpa. Predating the puppets, there was a little-known illustrated book series called Life of Grandpa, with the show practically being a shot-for-shot remake of this book series, featuring the same exact characters and stories. And much like the show, the series was also a religious guide created for children. In its pages, you'll find themes about morality and lessons made to guide you towards a proper way of living through this religion. But these books also had a very apparent dark side, one far worse than the show it inspired.
Oh boy.
In the chapter Real Fathers, we're shown a scene where Techi and Davidito question why they have two different skin colors, despite them being siblings, as Techi noticed that Davidito's skin appeared light brown, while hers was almost pure white, to which Grandpa then explains to them how his wife and their mother had slept with other men. See, God used Timothy and Carlos only to fuck Mama so that I could have you both.
What? 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 Oh my God. I need a shot. I can't, dude. I can't. This is...
I don't have my eye drops. My eyes are burning. I've been flashbanged with words.
God damn. Oh.
Damn it.
You need to go get them?
I'm good.
Jesus. Whew.
They were just like an instrument or tool that Jesus used to help create you wonderful little children for his kingdom. Praise the Lord.
Oh, Grandpa is a cuck. Grandpa is a cuck. He likes to watch from the closet, and as his wife gets fucked, Grandpa is... Oh, God.
This was followed by an in-depth explanation of what that scene looked like, including images depicting the act.
What the fuck?
Whoa! 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 Whoa!
Examples like this are prevalent all throughout the pages of Life with Grandpa, with erotic material being shown constantly with no regard as to how inappropriate this is to be showing kids.
Whoa,
which begs the obvious
dude!
question. Why? Why was Life with Grandpa so blatantly perverted? Well, the answer lies with the author of the books and the reason for the show's existence.
Who?
David Berg.
David Berg.
He shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect. That's when Jesus is going to come back.
I'm sorry, if I saw this guy in real life, I would immediately assume that he's a pedophile. 100%.
To rapture his saints, to gather them together.
Born in 1919, David grew up a devout believer in Christianity, but wanted something more from the religion. He dreamed of one day starting his own group with his own teachings. And in 1968, at the ripe age of 50, he decided it was time to do just that. The group began in Huntington Beach, California, and went by many names over the years, like Teens for Christ, the Children of God, the Family of Love, the Family International, or just the Family. But regardless of its name, there was no denying what this group was.
A cult.
A cult.
Bingo!
A cult led by David Berg. Berg would find young hippies and those struggling with drug addiction and mental health issues, and convince them to join his group by stating that the end of the world was coming soon, and that they needed to follow in his path and join his family to save their souls.
Those who desperately seek power always seek out the weak-minded and those who are easily manipulated. And it doesn't surprise me that this dude found a following, because in all honesty, all you need to do to build up followers is literally just tell people that I have a solution to your problem. You need only follow me devoutly, and I will get you there. And they'll believe you. Especially if you're charismatic enough.
It was pretty standard cult ideology, but at the time it was extremely effective, with the sect amassing a staggering 10,000 members at its peak. And at first, David got by with fairly standard teachings from the Bible, although this wouldn't last. After some time, Berg began addressing his followers via frequent illustrated messages called Mo letters that featured his ramblings and teachings from the time, with Berg slowly ingraining into his members that the contents of these letters should be taken as seriously, if not more so, than the Bible. In one of these letters sent out in 1972,
that should be a giant red flag for any Christian who's been paying attention.
Ooga, ooga. That is definitely not good.
God was going to destroy the United States, and that the group needed to flee the country immediately, with Berg demanding that his followers spread out all across the globe and open up communal homes where members could live as one, far away from the public eye. As a result, many members packed up their things and left right away, leading to roughly 130 communities being established across 70 different countries, essentially overnight.
Whoa!
This mass migration had an extremely significant impact on the family, as it left practically the entire group outside of the United States, and more importantly, outside of the United States jurisdiction, meaning that Berg can now get away with far more than he used to. And unsurprisingly, this is where he began to tighten his control. The full-time members were made to give up all of their earthly possessions to the group and cease all contact with their family and friends who were non-believers, cutting them off from the outside world completely. And these restrictions also applied to the media they consumed.
I decided I would limit how much I would watch the TV. Cause now I've got the answer. It's the slave, I'm the master. It no longer has a spell on me.
In his teachings, Berg denounced all forms of entertainment made outside of the cult, since he believed that this would poison the minds of his members and potentially sway them into leaving the group. And so, instead, he insisted that his followers only consume media that was produced directly by the family, with these works often being created by Berg himself or the other followers he enlisted, and then shipped directly to the members' homes, leading to...
I have a feeling that one shot's not going to be enough for the things that we're going to witness. Because we just oh my God.
Hundreds, if not thousands of videos, movies, and TV shows being produced and shared among the family. But for Berg, this wasn't just about providing entertainment. It was really all about controlling the minds of his group, and even more importantly, indoctrination, with his primary targets being children.
Yep.
From birth, most kids were not shown any media other than what the cult gave their parents, with these works quite literally shaping their minds into following everything that the cult believed in without question. The main themes of these were usually things like always be happy,
more than 70 little muscles form a frowny face,
but only 14 muscles put a smile in its place on your face.
always show love,
And just look at what love can do.
and never, under any circumstances, question your parents.
It's always best to do it 'cause Daddy said so. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. Trust, obey, and...
I'm always about, disciplining kids, making kids, aware of the fact that, what an adult says goes. But there are times where, it's like, kids, if something bad is happening to you at home, you know, you need to speak up about it. Like, that's something that I think needs to be instilled in kids.
It's pretty clear what they're doing here.
Oh, yes.
It's fucked up.
Yes.
I mean, this is literally a standard cult, and by the sound of it, it's also probably, like, you know, a PDF file cult.
I wouldn't doubt it for a second. I would not doubt it for a second.
I'm waiting for them to get to the lessons on why it's okay
to like diddle
do
kids.
horrible things to kids.
Yes, it's.
Daddy said so. Do it 'cause Daddy said so. 'Cause Daddy knows best.
What's
And
also
Life of Grandpa
terrifying
was
is the
no
fact
exception.
that all of this media has leaked out to the rest of the world as well. It's like, this is stuff that should have been burned and destroyed.
Yes.
I'm all for media preservation, but good God.
This is
like the manifestation of a
evil
person's, like, desires.
Yes, this is
Like,
literally.
This deserves to be burned.
Yes.
Like, this story deserves to be, like, you know, like, written down as, like, a warning, like, as, like, all cult warnings should be. But, I mean, the media that the cult produced, like, the fact that it still exists is just, ugh, skin
Disgusting.
crawling, because I know where this is going. I mean, it's already gone to places that I really don't like, but it's probably going to get worse.
No doubt about it. I'm sorry, I had to take another one, dude, because I didn't think one was going to be enough. Ugh.
As it too was created by the family in order to instill their beliefs into its child viewers, with the line trust and obey being hammered home time and time again, as those creating the programs didn't want their kids questioning any of the practices, and so they were teaching them to simply smile along and trust the adults. But because the group was the one producing and distributing the content, they basically had no regulations placed on them, meaning that they could include whatever they want in these shows without any repercussions, leading to many of the showrunners exploring some of the group's more controversial beliefs, which becomes extremely troublesome when you realize that the family wasn't just your standard cult, and instead, it was a sex cult.
No! There it is! No.
Freaking knew it.
Oh. Oh.
It's horrifying.
Christ in a cartoon, man. This is absolutely terrible.
I just really hope this video doesn't end with the words, and the really terrifying thing is this cult still exists today.
Much like the Mr. Swirl one still gets me. The fact that that dude was proven on so many counts of the things that he was doing, and he is out, still walking around, is disturbing to me.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck, Canada?
You think of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. What are you thinking about? You think about a beautiful naked man and a beautiful naked woman. And what is the first thing that a beautiful naked man and a beautiful naked woman would, of course, naturally do as soon as they saw each other and nobody else around? I think just one look was all it took. And bloop.
David Berg was a deeply perverted man. The idea of sex consumed him and seeped its way into essentially all of his teachings.
I think
You don't
Adam and
say.
Eve are over there behind those bushes right now, busy making not pina colada. I think they're making some other kind of juices.
And once his followers were outside of the US, he began to preach something he called the Law of Love, which essentially said that the family should be showing all people love, and that love should come in the form of sex.
I practice what I preach, and I preach sex, boys and girls, hallelujah.
And so he told
This is going to be a hard one to get through, man.
his followers to open up their relationships to outsiders, calling the practice sharing, as you were made to share your partner in the hopes of enticing new people to join the
Polyamory.
group. But he wasn't
Polyamory.
satisfied with just this, and instead he began to mandate that the women of the group participate in something he called flirty fishing. Also known as FF, flirty fishing describes the practice of women going into bars at night in order to pick up lonely men, who they would then entertain for the night. The goal of this was to convince these men to join the family, though more realistically, the goal was also to make money, as they were made to charge for their services, with the women being told to seek lonely businessmen. And this is something that
In other
Berg not
words,
only...
he was using them as prostitutes.
Yes, to get money for the cult. That's it. They wanted, guarantee you, he told these women, I want you to go out and find the richest dude you can find.
Now, he's saying women right now, too, but why do I get the horrible feeling that because they are in countries that are not the United States, that he's sending out girls as well to do the same thing?
And little boys. I would guarantee, well, here's the thing. Women are the easiest to entice. Women are, like, easy to be enticed by, but, like, men who do, like, host club activities, what they have in Japan, those host clubs and stuff like that. Basically, you could do something similar to that, and then also, not only that, but also the younger side of things, which is just... Oh, this makes me want to find every single one of the people that was involved in this and kill them with a hammer.
Well, it's
I'm not
mainly
joking.
the freaking main dude.
Well, here's the thing.
Everyone else in the cult is a victim of this guy to an extent. Like, even the evil people, like, that got in, like, they might not have ever actually opened their dark side that way unless they were manipulated and given the free, like, go ahead to do what they did. So, I mean, I put all the responsibility pretty much solely on him.
I do too, but at the same time, there are people who I guarantee you were, like, more than happy to take advantage of, like the desperate followers, just like he was. Now, he may be the figurehead, but I guarantee you he had some right and left-hand people, like right and left-hand men and women, who stood alongside him, knew what was going on, and gleefully took part in it just like he did.
Could be.
And in all honesty, anyone who's involved to that degree and that level, I would take out back and I would just beat them to death. No doubt, like, not a doubt in my mind. That's what they deserve.
Pushed heavily, but outright mandated, insisting that every woman in the group do this or face being removed from the family, even those who were married. And Berg was so serious about this that he sent every colony report forms so that they could report how much flirty fishing was being done, in order to check their statistics and make sure that they were up to par. Understandably, many women of the group were concerned by this and wanted nothing to do with it. However, most of them had moved all the way across the world and sacrificed all of their belongings to be in this group, meaning that their removal would leave them with nothing. They were trapped. Simply put, Berg was forcing the women of the group into prostitution, and he was shameless about it too, calling them God's whores and Christ's hookers. The worst of all, Berg knew that flirty fishing could put these women in grave danger, as he admitted to them that violent assaults were going. Berg knew that flirty fishing.
The naked lady on the splayed out next to the image of Christ. That right there is. Oh, I hope that this dude burns in hell forever for this shit.
I'm sure Satan will be flashing these pictures in front of his face as he taunts him and pokes him with his pitchfork, and he burns over and over again.
Could put these women in grave danger, as he admitted to them that violent assaults were going to happen, but he said that if you want to live, simply don't resist. And if you do get hurt or even killed, that's entirely your fault, as after all, it was God's will. And this was on top of a myriad of...
Is it God's will that I want to find you and I want to literally just shave every piece of flesh off your body and then rub salt on the wounds? Is that God's will?
Other horrific things that Berg said that I can't even repeat here.
Me too, dude.
But
I'm hoping he's already gone.
If
this dude doesn't exist anymore.
I hope he's dead. Well, born in 1919, he'd be 105 by now. So
yeah,
I'd about guarantee you he's dead by now. But still, the fact that he did this to so many people, it hurts. This hurts my fucking soul.
I mean, this section is on this horrible thing that's happening right now. There's 2 more short sections, and there's a long section and another section.
And then what I
so there's at least
the ending.
4 more fucked up things that we haven't heard about yet that this dude did to people. So
we're not even halfway through the video. I just realized.
things was the same man who wrote Life with Grandpa, and he used this medium to normalize his sex cult's beliefs for the children watching, which gives more context as to why women were portrayed in the way they were in these books and the show, as Life with Grandpa was breaking down the young girls watching and grooming them for a life of prostitution.
It's easing them into
that they
the
were made to
idea
accept
instead
without
of just
question.
like killing out and saying.
Though the show wasn't only for preparing the kids for the perverse lifestyles they were headed for, and instead, they were already becoming well accustomed to it.
Oh no.
Knew it.
Throughout his Mo letters, Berg also began to preach that children should be involved.
No matter who or what age. Oh.
This should not be a surprise to you at all.
It's not, but the fact that it...
I saw this coming about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Involved in these affairs and sharing as well, stating that he believed age should have nothing to do with it. In fact, he believed that children should be taught about this lifestyle essentially as soon as they're born. And although, again, I can't read his exact words on this, Berg had declared open season on pedophilia, and much like flirty fishing, it was mandatory. The abuse that followed is unimaginable, at a scale far too large to fully know to this day. Abuse that the parents of the children not only allowed, but often participated in, with one of the more notorious large-scale accounts coming from something that the group called the Love Video. This movie was a result of Berg sending out requests to all of the parents to send him lewd videos of their children dancing, which he not only took for himself, but packaged together into a long-form compilation video that was then distributed to all of the cult's members, encouraging the others to film similar content, with Berg going as far as creating a guide to help create the perfect video. And not only did many parents go along with this, but many clearly enjoyed it.
Keita shared with us the video that just came from World Services, and it was so inspiring. It was so beautiful. The love video.
And
like I said, dude, anyone who is involved in this up into that level and is talking about this like that deserves to be beaten until they are a bloody pulp on the ground. 100%.
I mean, because you don't get to that dude's age and go off and join a cult and get brainwashed into suddenly thinking that, like, PDF file stuff is okay. Like, you have to be okay with that in the first place to talk about it the way he's talking about it. Like, that guy, there was already something wrong with that guy, too, so I see your point.
Yeah.
And for this couple specifically, this wasn't the only order that they were happily following.
It was really a blessing, too, for Joe and Hobo, because they had a good chance to share also with Sally.
Amen.
And so the Lord's really setting us freer and freer to obey and to be free and to show that sample of freedom and love to the world.
There is nothing about freedom in what you're doing.
I would literally, I honestly... I would want to put these people through so much pain that the hell that I send them to will seem like paradise. That is literally how this is making me feel. I loathe these people. I loathe these people that would take the Word of God, that would take and twist the Word of God into something like that. Into something like this. That not only is okay with it or tolerates it, but encourages it. This is evil. This is like one of the most evil things that I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm. It's something you know exists, but you try to pretend it doesn't. It's just better for everyone's mental health to ignore it. But
no,
you absolutely know there are cults exactly like this in the world right now.
Yes,
and it's so fucked
And
up.
if I had the opportunity and if I had the ability to, I would decimate every single one of them, and I would do everything in my power to ensure that this doesn't, because these kids don't deserve this, man.
No.
These kids don't deserve any of this, and it's happening to them every single day.
I'm pretty sure everyone agrees with you except for the other people who are evil, so they're the minority, thankfully.
Yeah.
Life with Grandpa was literally created to indoctrinate kids into a pedophilic sex cult, and it makes you realize why exactly it and so many other of the cult's programs were hammering home this point of not questioning your parents or any adults, and to simply
when I
obey
was
and
watching
smile.
that clip that I called it, because I was like, this sounds dangerous.
It is.
It's like, always try, if daddy says it's okay, basically. Like, you know, it's like, that's not, they're disguising it as like a mundane, like, yeah, you should honor your father and mother, and like what they say is like usually the best way to go because they're wise and older than you. But when your parents have malicious intent, it's also phrasing it in a way that tells you not to question that malicious intent. And that's why I was like, this is a huge red flag to me as soon as I saw that.
Massive red flag.
And I knew exactly where it was going, and I was 100% correct.
You were right.
So the right thing is
To obey.
Because the adults in their lives were now suddenly doing unimaginable things to them, and they were being groomed not to question it, making some of the show's segments horrendous in hindsight.
One very special way you can show the big people that you love them is by giving them lots of hugs, kisses, and cuddles. Oh, a child's love and affection really encourages and inspires the big people.
It was normalizing their abuse, and because of this, many children never questioned the horrible assaults that they endured, assaults that were all fueled and pushed by David Berg's sick perversions.
God created boys and girls able to have children by about the age of 12 years of age. My God, now he's going to advocate child and sex. Yes.
Which were far from theoretical, as Berg himself allegedly partook in this practice repeatedly with his own children and stepchildren, as incest was also a key point of his teachings, and his adult father.
Why wouldn't it be? It's like if the parents were making videos of their own kids, that was already implied, in my opinion. It's like, this is going to get as bad as it can possibly get, I'm sure, by the end of this video.
Yeah.
Like, the next thing I'm waiting on is the actual ritual sacrifice of children. Which, to be honest, like, sounds like a small mercy for some of them.
Yeah. This is hitting very, very, in some ways, very close to home for me, man.
Well, we don't have to finish watching it.
I'm fine with it. It's just...
You don't sound fine. It's not going to be a very good reaction if you just get absolutely destroyed by it.
I'm fine with it. I've come to terms with what's happened to me, and I know it happened to other people out there. It's just... I'm going to get through this. I'll be fine.
So you're going to have to rewatch it and edit it after this, too.
I know, and I'll be fine.
Are you sure?
I promise. I'll be fine. If it gets bad enough, dude, I'll stop. But right now, I'm just...
It's like, I think I'm having a much easier time because to an extent I'm able to like wall off my emotions about this kind of stuff. It's like, would I absolutely do all the same things that you're talking about if I ever met any of these people? Yes, like, absolutely. But I'm able to... I think I'm able to dissociate to an extent with this kind of thing. Like, and that's the only reason that I'm not, like, in the same kind of spot, you know?
It's just everything that happened to me. I just, with hearing about this on this level, and it just, whew. I know me saying like I want to do all these things isn't helping. It's not gonna undo what's been done, and that is a sad, immutable fact of life. Is what is done, and there's no uncasting the die after it's been thrown. And the only thing that we can do is ensure that future generations don't have to go through this. And yeah, it just...
If you know any
Followers
local
rarely-
cult members that you can punch in the face,
yeah,
consider it. No, I'm just
Yes.
kidding. I'm not going to advocate violence or anything.
Oh, I will advocate. I'll advocate for just...
I don't think we're technically allowed to do that.
No, I'm going to advocate for, like, just awareness.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to advocate for. Awareness. Stay aware. Stay vigilant. Protect your kids. I know a lot of you...
Careful who you associate with.
Exactly. Like, always be careful out there. Like keep
Learn
your
to
eyes on your
spot
kids.
red flags.
Yes. Like,
I think that is one of the most important skills that people can have in any day and age at any time. It's knowing how to look for red flags.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
people hide their intentions, whether they be good or bad.
Yes.
Dared to question this, as those who refused to partake in Berg's latest teachings were again at risk of removal from the group, which is even more devastating for those who had children, as much like all of their possessions, their kids were pledged and belonged to the family. And the kids themselves couldn't seek help either, as those that refused to trust and obey were sent away to actual prison camps owned by the cult until they were basically reprogrammed.
They made
Told
camps.
you it would get worse.
I was sent with my brother to the Philippines. We had armed guards from the Filipino military keeping us in. They would publicly beat you if you asked to leave, then try to break you and get you to confess.
And the group continuously got away with this too, thanks in large part to Berg's orchestration of the group leaving the United States, which looking back was almost certainly done on purpose. Plus, many members were actually living in hiding. In fact, all of the members were made to change their names upon joining the group, and most were told to never give out their last names, meaning that if any child wanted to report that it happened to them, they...
More standard cult fare.
Hiding information.
Mm-hmm. Everybody has to have a different name when they join the cult because you're leaving your previous life behind.
Yes.
Those ties to other people don't matter anymore. Your life before doesn't matter anymore. This is your life.
Yeah.
Your life has just begun. Like, it's all textbook cult shit.
Yeah, it is.
And that's why cults are horrifying.
It's evil.
We're just hearing more of the details this time around, so it sounds worse than it usually is, but all cults are horrifying.
Yes.
Like, it's like, that's why, in my opinion, I have as much fun with games where you are just, like, blasting cultists as I do with games where you're blasting Nazis.
Yeah. I'm literally...
That's why Dusk is just as fun as Wolfenstein.
Agreed. I'm so nervous about this, I literally gnawed a hole in my freaking thumb.
That's not good.
Yeah, thank you. Just need one or two, thank you.
Need a Band-Aid?
I'm good right now. It'll stop here in just a little bit.
Provide even the names of their abusers. And this included Berg too, who at this point lived most of his life in hiding, going by numerous aliases to avoid detection. Aliases like King, Moses, Mo, Dad, and eventually...
God. Grandpa.
Grandpa. The entire show was about him, David Berg, which is why he was shown as a wise, unquestioned religious-like figure who the children were made to look up to. And that wasn't all, as the characters shown alongside Berg were also members of his real-life family that lived with him in a remote commune. Mother Maria was the nickname of Karen Zerby, David's wife who helped him run the cult and facilitate this era of hypersexualization, while Aunt Sarah was based on Sarah Kelly, the woman in charge of running the prison camp made to punish the kids who dared question the family's beliefs.
Sarah Kelly, who was responsible for me being held against my will in the Philippines.
But the most grotesque detail to come from the revelation of who these characters are was that it showcased David Berg's polygamy, as he was actually married to many people in the real world, and two characters on the show itself.
Not at all surprising
Mother
either.
Maria and Davida.
Also not surprising.
His then 5-year-old stepdaughter. Davida would eventually go on to tell her story, stating that she had been Berg's child bride.
And there was a ceremony with the ring and everything, and once I turned 5 years old was when I was implicated into being one of his queens, so to speak.
Along with allegations that she had been victimized by him countless times. And she wasn't the only victim of Berg's perversions. Tetchy was often sexualized by Berg publicly, with Berg having stories made and illustrated depicting his fantasies about her when she was just a child. On top of this, numerous people within the group also claimed that she had been outright assaulted by the hands of Berg, as well as many others in the group.
And look at our pretty girls today. You're dressed in such nice dresses and your hair looks so nice. Yes, you look so pretty for all the children that are watching today.
The context of who these characters are makes this already disturbing show that much more sickening. But of all of the horrible stories to come from the real-life characters of Life with Grandpa, there's one that is far and away the most horrific. The story of Davidito.
Oh, sir, are you burning a Kiriyama for me right now, sir?
I think so.
Nick.
I think Nick is...
That's a fellow Nick. Don't do that.
Don't do
that.
Don't make me associate this
I love
with
Akira Yamaoka too, but don't do that.
Don't make me associate this with Akira Yamaoka in any way.
I'm going to try my best to forget that was a thing just now. And I really hope you change the track to something else for this next segment.
Please.
David is such a handsome boy, isn't he, girls? Would you like for David to share some more lessons?
Yes, Grandpa.
Are you all ready? Okay, David, you have the floor.
His real name was Ricky Rodriguez, and as a baby, he was taken in as Berg's son following Maria conceiving him with a man after a night of flirty fishing. And being David's first son, he was given the nickname Davidito. As for David Berg, he viewed this child as essentially a messiah. He began telling his followers that Davidito would one day save them from the apocalypse, causing Davidito to become a celebrity within the group, and worshipped as a religious figure when he was just a baby. Which explains why he was given so much airtime during Life with Grandpa, and why he was constantly being showered with gifts.
We want to give you a little surprise because you were such a good witness.
And for David and Karen, they wanted Davidito's life and childhood to be a guide for all members of the group, as they raised him in what they believed to be the perfect manner for a godly household. And so the couple and several other contributors documented the way he was raised, with daily journal entries that were published as weekly newsletters, and eventually turned into one massive book titled The Story of Davidito. And the family truly believed that this over 700-page book was the ultimate guide for parenting and showed the only proper way to raise a child. Though what it actually showed was just how badly Davidito was being abused. Davidito is described laying next to his nude nannies, witnessing orgies involving his own mother, and being touched sexually by the adults around him, with these examples being presented through not only written stories, but actual photographs, with the adults involved having their faces removed and drawings placed over the top of them in order to hide their identities. The book was not only promoting sexual acts with
That is truly disturbing right there. The hand-drawn thing over the top of their face is just... oh boy.
Children, but it was outright showing it, and showing it happen to Davidito. And because of this, we have a daily journal entry of all the abuse that this child suffered, starting when he was an infant. Despite all the heinous acts that had been going on within the family, they had up until this point gone virtually unchecked by the public eye. But the story of Davidito would prove to be the first domino to fall, as the book leaked to the press.
Tonight, the cult Children of God, founded by Moses David Berg, he reportedly sanctioned sex among children.
This immediately became a news story all across the world, and it began shining a light on the family and its twisted beliefs. But despite all the constant news coverage, and the story of Davidito being tangible proof of the cult's horrible practices, there was still essentially nothing done to stop them, as very few arrests were ever made as a result, and even fewer resulted in convictions. So nothing was ever done to help Davidito. And so during his entire childhood and his early adult years, he stayed with the group. Though the older he got, the more he began to see the family for what they really were, and the constant pain that he was experiencing eventually made him want to just run away from it all. And so, in 1999, that's exactly what he did, fleeing to the United States in the hopes of starting a new life. Though this was easier said than done, and no amount of distance was enough to keep him away from his tortured past. At one point during his time in the United States, Ricky actually opened up about the struggles he was experiencing on a website made for survivors of the family. And there, he documented just how bad things really were for him and several others behind the scenes, living with Berg, appropriately titling the post, Life with Grandpa. It was apparent that he was haunted by this life that he tried to escape, as the trauma was an everyday cycle of hell, and he just couldn't take it anymore.
Do you know that sometimes the Lord likes to test our faith, to teach us patience, and to really make us pray? This is just what happened to me once.
Well, hey everyone. I want people to know that even though some of the things that I'm going to try to do are rather shocking and maybe not right in a lot of people's books, I want to explain some of the reasons behind them.
On January 7th,
No.
2005, Ricky Rodriguez set up a video camera in his apartment and expressed his desire to kill his mother and other leaders of the group for all the dreadful things that they had done.
I thought it was self-harm.
No, I was gonna say I was about to be like, did he go Doom Guy against the cult?
Oh boy.
Not only to him, but to all the other children.
I am not.
To be honest, this is gonna sound really bad to a lot of people. I understand. I don't blame him.
I don't either.
I could not. I cannot imagine. You could not imagine unless you've been through the exact same thing that he has, and I highly doubt you've been through anything as bad as he has.
No.
I could not imagine that having happened to me, and I could easily see much less than what he had to go through, getting you to the point where it seems worth it.
Yes.
To take a gun to some people who you know are absolutely pure fucking evil.
Yeah.
Like,
I
can't blame him.
I can't either. And
I know that sounds bad, but I know
no,
it's wrong to a lot of people. But and like, there's
Here's-
a lot of people that are like, all human life is precious, and I'm like,
tell that to the
Adolf
children.
Hitler?
Tell that to the children.
David Berg?
Tell that to the children who were abused by this cult. Tell that to
not all life is precious. It depends
No.
on what you do with your life that makes it precious.
Exactly. And if your life has done nothing but cause pain, misery, torment,
Suffering.
and hell and suffering for an untold amount of people, then your life is not precious. Your life is worthless. Your life would be better snuffed out than it would still intact. Period.
That's why anytime that anybody who's just depressed feels like, that's what I am. No, think about people like this. People like this exist. You are infinitely better than those kind of people.
Yes. And
like, your life is precious because you're not using it to hurt people.
exactly. If you're depressed and your mind is basically your worst enemy and it's telling you to do something bad, just know this. And I'm not going to try and like placate your suffering or make you feel like that you're like, you know, what you're feeling isn't real. What you're feeling is real. But you should know that your life is infinitely better than these people that did this to this guy. Infinitely better. And you need to seek help to get yourself in a mindset and in a better place to where you can make an impact on people's lives that can make things better.
Dude, even if you've been in your room for the past like number of years in the dark watching shows, like doing nothing, and you feel worthless because of that, like, your life still has so much more worth than the people who did this.
Yes. Infinitely more.
Like, this should be proof to you that, hey, I'm actually pretty good in retrospect.
Yeah. And
you're pretty dope because you haven't been hurting anyone. Like,
and here's what I'll say.
you could be doing much worse things.
And here's the thing, I put a lot.
Of course, you can do better too.
Yeah,
but you
of
could
course,
be doing much worse.
anyone can do better, but at the same time, just realize that life could be much worse, and
I'm not even saying that life could be worse for you. I'm not like, I don't really like that. Like, that's a bad comparison. But I'm saying.
No, I'm saying that life.
I'm saying you could be doing worse than you are.
That's what. Well, that's what I meant to say.
And you're making the conscious choice to have your life be worth more than that.
Yes.
Like, even if you've not really done anything or felt like you've done anything recently, as long as you're not hurting people, you're making a choice for your life to be better than it could be.
So I'll say this, and I made a video talking about it where I talked about what happened to me. For 20 years, I held on to something that, in all honesty, I shouldn't have, and I should have told people about it earlier, but I was afraid. because I was afraid that it was going to wind up like with people I knew and loved dying. And it was my fear from being a kid and having that happen to me that caused me to not say anything. And here's what I will say. What happened to me is nowhere near the level as what has happened to this guy. Nowhere near the level. So me comparing what happened to me to him there's no comparison. Nothing.
It doesn't undermine what's happened to you.
No, I'm not saying that it does. I'm not saying that it undermines what happened to me. What happened to me happened, and there's nothing that can be undone about it. It happened, I've accepted it, and I've moved on. I mean, the woman who did it to me is dead and gone. She's dead, and in all honesty, I have nothing else to say about her. And this guy right here, everything that he's been through, you were saying you don't blame him. I don't either. I don't. If it was this level of what happened to him from birth, dude, from birth. Not like it was with me when I was 12 years old. From birth. That was all you knew. A little retribution wouldn't be out of the cards. A little retribution, in my mind, there'd be nothing wrong with that.
With his hope being that this would finally bring down the family once and for all.
My goal is to get those $6 Mom and Peter, and then I can go to the next life knowing that, that I made a difference.
With Ricky going as far as to show off the various ways that he planned on torturing them.
I'm gonna have to make do. I got my drill here. Got lots of fucking duct tape.
God knows, he hears, he cares. He loves his girls and boys. He gives his very
Buck
best
knife,
to those
taser.
who let him choose the toys.
By this point, David Berg had been dead for years, though the family carried on with his mother, Karen Zerby, assuming full control, which explains why she was the primary target. And much like Berg, Karen spent most of her life in hiding, with Ricky being unable to track her down, though he was able to find Angela Smith, one of the nannies responsible for raising him, as well as one of his most prominent abusers, as she was even shown in the story of Davidito assaulting him. At this point, Ricky was exhausted, and Angela was his last shot at getting intel to help him find his mother and finally carry through on his plans. And so, he invited her over for dinner, under the guise of rejoining the group.
I went home that night and tried to wait patiently for the next day. But the Lord still had more lessons that he wanted to teach me. This is what happened.
Ooh.
Before Ricky could even get the information he was looking for, something in him snapped, and midway through their conversation, Ricky grabbed a knife and stabbed Karen in the arm, and then slit her throat. He fled the area that night, driving for hours until he reached California, the place that years before David Berg had started the family. There,
That's
he
gotta
called
be
his
a
ex-
regret, and not for the reasons you would think it would be.
Yeah.
It's like... I hesitate to say that, like, there are situations where I could understand torture, but there apparently are situations where I could understand it, and getting that information where those people are, I would understand it.
I would too. I would too.
Ex-wife professing to everything he did, saying that he did it mainly for his sister Techi, but he felt no better. In fact, he felt worse. And even looking back at the video, it's very obvious that this was something that Ricky didn't truly want to do, and instead he felt like he had to do it, to avenge everyone that the family had hurt.
I'm not trained. I don't know how to fucking do this. I don't even want to fucking do this. God damn it.
And it was too late to take back what he did. And so he stopped the car in a dark parking lot, sat there for a moment thinking about everything that had happened during his painful life.
No, man.
And ended his suffering once and for all.
Damn it.
I mean, in a way, that's what these fuckers have done to us. They didn't actually, grab a knife and cut us up, but, man.
They destroyed you, though. They destroyed you in every way imaginable. That you can destroy someone without physically, hurting them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they did physically hurt them.
They did physically hurt them, but what I mean is, physically torture, once again.
They sure fucked up our brains. That's the way it was at Grandpa and Mama's house. literally or figuratively, they're going down. So, with that happy thought, I shall leave you.
Ricky Rodriguez's death was devastating for the community of survivors of the family, and it caused shockwaves all throughout the family itself, as his final video was plastered all over the news. And though it didn't happen in the way he expected it or wanted it to, Ricky's life and death undoubtedly contributed to the decline of the family, and helped diminish the cycle of abuse within the group. Starting from the story of Davidito, the public pressure forced Berg to outlaw the widespread abuse that he once preached. And though it is believed that it never really came to an end, it was at the very least significantly reduced. And by the time the news began to cover Ricky's death, it proved to be the final wake-up call for many still within the group, as they finally began to see through the facade that had once controlled their lives.
Well, he did make a difference at least then.
You know, in ironic twist, they wanted to promote Davidito as a savior.
Kinda was.
And not for the reason the cult wanted, but in his own way, and to like wake people up to the cult's like methods of madness. He was a savior. And his death made it impossible for them to ignore it.
Hell, maybe God would have gotten pissed off if he kept watching this cult do what they were doing in his name to destroy the world at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe he was the savior of the apocalypse.
Maybe.
And because he managed to get it to chill and hopefully disband eventually.
Prayer is powerful. When we pray, things will happen and things will be different.
It's difficult to watch any of Life with Grandpa, knowing its history, its purpose, and the real people that it was inspired by. Though as soon as the media began taking notice of the cult, many members were made to purge the media that was sent to them that may be considered incriminating. And as a result, it appears that most of Life with Grandpa is missing to this day, and potentially destroyed forever.
Good.
Currently, only 4 episodes have been recovered, and it's not even known how many more were released, or even what year the show started or ended. But considering how closely the show mirrored the book, it's possible that these potentially missing and destroyed episodes are much worse than the ones we have today. But despite not knowing the full extent of the show, it's clear that Life with Grandpa and the countless other programs that the family made did exactly what they wanted them to. They brainwashed an entire generation of the cult's children, and the effects were devastating.
But they become extremely agitated when we ask them about Moses David Berg's teachings on sex.
My Little Fish. Now, your father described that as a routine publication.
They're not having sex, they're just kissing and hugging in bed. That's not sex.
If you show it to other people, they don't understand. That stuff's not supposed to be publicized. So many people think sex is wrong. So many people hate us. But we just telling them the truth. We're just telling them it's not wrong. We're just telling them that there's nothing wrong with it. And here come these publicizers doing them to everybody.
Between the
I know you're trying to get across the point to the world, like, about how bad the cult was, but you don't have to, like, re-show the survivors of the cult stuff once they've escaped. That brings back the memories.
Yeah. That's just...
From the program itself, its obvious attempts at indoctrinating kids into a cult that was only ever going to harm them, the real-life people behind the characters, and the fact that this propaganda was so effective, I have no doubt that Life with Grandpa is the darkest children's show that I've ever come across. Though, shockingly, there's somehow one more layer to the story that makes this program even more disturbing.
Oh, great. Because it needed that.
And now, here's the exciting ending to this story.
One thing that we haven't discussed yet is who was actually the one behind the creation of the show. There's no doubt that it's David Berg's stories and was probably done at his request, but who is the one actually making it? Well, unfortunately, most of the people who worked on the show have their identities hidden by only using their first names, or even using straight-up aliases, so I could hardly find any information on any of them, with the exception of one, Peter Puppet. Peter Puppet was sort of a celebrity within the group, being responsible for numerous puppet shows, including one called The Lovettes, which was actually far more popular than Life with Grandpa, and was even supposedly broadcast on TV in the Philippines, with the show being a disturbing rabbit hole in its own right.
Would you like to hear a story? Well then, let's go see Grandpa in the garden.
Hello, children. So nice of you to visit us in the garden today.
But Peter Puppet owned this group and was in charge of the Lovettes team, and coincidentally, the Lovettes just so happened to be credited as the producers of Life with Grandpa. So Peter Puppet was, at the very least, one of the contributing creators of the show. And he also seems to be the one in charge of performing the actual musical numbers on the show, as they featured puppets that belonged to Peter and the Lovettes team, with these segments interestingly being credited to an unknown man named Peter Pioneer.
We have a beautiful song from Peter Pioneer.
It's not a concrete link, but it's clear that Peter Puppet had a role in the show's creation, and helped push the family's disturbed ideology onto hundreds of kids across the globe. But during the creation of Life with Grandpa, it seems his own beliefs were being tested. In the beginning of the video, we saw an example of the family's view on doctors.
Surely a doctor would have stitched it, but our God is still a God of miracles. Praise the Lord.
This sentiment was really common in the family, as Berg outright forbade any medicine or surgeries of any kind, instead preaching that miracles from God were the only way to heal. And because of this, many members of the family with chronic ailments or fatal illnesses were basically left to die.
Right? Because if anybody from the cult goes to a practicing medical doctor and then they start getting questioned about like their medical history,
like
what's one thing that comes up?
Yeah, where do these scars on your back come
even
from?
Something that they ask the kids, I'm pretty sure, at a certain age, like when they get into their teens, which is, are you sexually active? And
Yes.
that's going to start to bring up questions from the doctor, and they're going to start to realize something bad is going on with this person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's another reason, like, that he probably did that. Just he didn't want outside doctors basically exposing what was going on to the outside world.
Agreed.
And one of those left suffering was Peter Puppet. His life is almost entirely a mystery, as he lived in hiding in one of the family's compounds, but according to some of the group's members, one day he noticed something in his neck, a small lump, and over the next few weeks and months it began to slowly get bigger and bigger, to the point that Peter had to go visit a doctor in order to see what was wrong. And it was there he learned that inside of him was an aggressive tumor that was only going to get larger. The good news was the tumor was actually operable and could be removed with little risk to his life, but the bad news was surgeries were against the family's beliefs, and so he turned it down, instead opting to go back to the compound to pray the tumor away with the other members. This, however, never happened. Instead, the mass began to grow at an even faster rate, to the point that those around him could notice it, eventually leading to Peter hiding away in his room, away from the others, not wanting to be seen. However, at some point during his struggle, a photograph was taken, showing the entire compound he was living with. And in the background,
there he is. Look at that.
Yeah.
We see Peter, whose neck is impossibly large. From here, it's said that Peter began
definitely looking less operable at this point, isn't it?
And to beg the family to take him to get the surgery, as the tumor was quite literally suffocating him slowly, turning him against the very beliefs that he once forced upon so many children over the years. But the family forbade it, insisting that he wait for a miracle that was never going to come. With nowhere else to turn.
You know, here's the thing. The fact that the tumor can be removed at all is a miracle. And the fact that people are so stupid to not see that. And it's just like, oh, but medical practitioners, doctors can't be trusted. It's like, my dude.
Like I said, in this case, I think it's because they were afraid of what the outside doctors would find out if people were going to see them getting procedures done and such,
Yeah, true.
Peter Puppet supposedly ended his own life shortly after this photograph was taken, adding the final pillar of context to Life with Grandpa, a program that can only be described as the darkest children's show ever created.
we've got to go now.
not
Let's
just
wave
dark,
bye-bye,
it's evil.
kids.
It is.
God bless
Pure
you.
evil.
Come on, say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Sadly I wandered for many a year, driven by hunger and filled with fear. I must arise and go backward through sorrow, my steps to trace, seeking my heavenly
It's a travesty.
face, willing to take but a servant's place.
God damn it. Oh.
She hasn't been photographed publicly or been seen since 2010.
Exactly what I said I was worried about happening at the end of this fucking video.
Back to my father and home. Back to my father and home. I should arise and go back to my father and home. Why should I perish in dark despair, here where there's no one to help me?
Too far gone, man. People who are so entrenched in the belief and the ideals that even if all the evidence in the world came out against it, they would still defend it no matter what. That's...
Nor care when there is shelter and food to spare. I will arise and go, deeply repenting these wrongs I've done, worthy no more to be called his son, hoping my father his child will own. I must arise.
Yeah, whether they have rules against the abuse or not, I still...
They don't deserve to be
I'm
in the organization. man.
suspicious.
They don't deserve...
That's as far as everybody on the outside knows.
Well, I'm sorry, but when your leader is literally in hiding and has been in hiding for like the last 14 years and refuses to be photographed, I'm sorry, but you are like this is pure evil. I
Yet again, this brings back up why you guys gotta be careful, because literally this is still a risk. This exact cult is still a risk.
This is
yeah,
one
the
of
fact that this cult still exists because they say they don't do that stuff anymore, and that the legal system accepts that promise is mind-blowing.
Yes.
Absolutely agreed.
Oh, if I'm like an international organization that like focuses on criminal activities, I'm literally getting a task force together, and I am finding where the base of operations of this place is, and I am going there, and I'm going in there guns blazing, and if anyone tries to like say anything to me or try to like stop it, fire at will. Like, that'd be my orders. Because as far as I'm concerned, the people who are at the head of this and are still allowing this shit to happen, they don't deserve a trial. They don't deserve a fair trial. They deserve a lead aspirin to the back of the head. That's all they deserve. And they deserve to be... They basically deserve the Hitler treatment. Just taken out back, thrown in a ditch, and burned. No gravesite, no nothing. The world is better off knowing that these people existed and that they died like dogs, and they were burned in a ditch, and their remains were desecrated. That's all they deserve. That's all they deserve. Oh man. I'm typing out a comment. I'm trying to do like comments on every new video that we post and everything, or new video that we react to and everything. You know, just provide interaction, and that way y'all can go and find our comments and stuff like that. This is one where I literally just, I have a pit right here, like in the bottom, or like in like the bottom of my chest, that just knowing that this cult is still, not only exists, but seems to still be thriving to a certain degree. I would want to do everything I could to ensure that they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, like, I mean, I always knew cults were bad, but, like, this was a deeper dive into exactly how bad than I've probably seen before. I'm not sure YouTube will actually let you type stuff like that, to be honest.
Is that better?
Yeah.
It doesn't represent 100% how I feel, but if it's what'll allow it to be posted on YouTube, there we go. Okay, so yeah, this was... What a video. Nick Crowley, you have officially created one of the darkest pieces of media I think I've ever seen. And thank you for bringing light to the fact that this cult, like putting it more in the limelight than people need to know this exists, so that they can know to avoid it any way possible, and to look out for like people out there who act this way. I don't know what else to say at this point, except for I hope all of these people burn for what they've done. I hope they all burn for what they have done. And I hope that all of you all out there stay safe. Stay vigilant. Don't be attracted and pulled in by these monsters. And I just don't know what else to say at this, other than just be sure.
Time to go watch some anime. Because,
yeah, let's cheer ourselves up with something else.
This has been an hour and
23 minutes.
Something of unpleasantness.
Yeah. So again, everybody, thank you all so much for tuning in, and y'all be safe out there. Take care. All right. Peace.